universe has taken over the classroom, and we are going to chat about a famous historical figure and some of his favorite things he said. So let's roll. Hey guys, welcome to the episode of Alt Universe Live, and they are taking over Everyday Heroes today because they wanted to be in the classroom and they are going to have some fun with it. So this morning we talked some nutrition 101. Now we're going to talk about some history. Now, keeping in mind the character or the historical figure is also the main character of the Shakespeare play of the same name. We are, of course, talking about Julius Caesar. Some of the stuff we have out for you that were for Amazon is also the movies as well. So one thing I was going to point out, which I just pointed out to you a second ago, a lot of the quotes that people know him by actually are from the Shakespeare play or the films. However, those stories and films do take some liberty to recreate the, the life of what is probably one of the biggest Roman generals. So you know this guy, right? You know, anybody who hears his name.
Yeah.
And being a Roman leader, we're going to find out that many of the things that he said is typical of that culture at the time. So he was a leader between 100 BC to 44 BC, unfortunately, untimely death. And then from that point forward, let's just say the Roman thing went downhill, and that's for another day. All right, so you saw the title of our show, guys, so I will start with that one. Obviously, what he is most known for is the I came, I saw, I conquered. Now, obviously, I tried to look for the behind the whatever it was. There's not a lot of description of when and where other than, some documentaries. So we're going to go at it from what we feel probably was the basis of the things. And that one, I believe, and unfortunately, I think became way too overpopular to kind of lose meaning to what it was supposed to be. It is a very popular quote. A lot of people have it on their posters nowadays. But really, I feel the basis of it, and I will get your input in a second. It's more or less the Roman war general's mantra. I did the thing. I saw the thing. I succeeded. That's that.
Yeah, I agree.
As we know, Rome in general, not the nicest place to be. They weren't very friendly to most of their neighbors at history. So conquering was their forte. Now, not to say they were the only culture that did that. Of course, you have people like Attila the Hun, and you have people from the Chinese and Japanese Empire. But Rome really went far beyond, and they are known for being a, let's say, not so pleasantly type of people. But what does differentiate that from Caesar is that if you know him and you can see documentaries from History Channel and stuff like that, he himself was one of the better leaders as far as caring more for the people than for himself, which generally speaking, again, I'll kind of get your idea because obviously the presidency is different nowadays. But at that point in time, people did appreciate when the leader of them put his life at risk to make sure they weren't suffering too bad. Now, today, the president, it's a little bit different. I'm just talking for us. I'm not sure how other countries work, but it's a little bit different, right?
I think back in the day, that day, Julius Caesar's day, they were all warriors. I mean, and that was what they did. They went to war. They were on their horses and they were doing whatever they were doing. They were not just sitting and on their throne with their crown on and everyone else went to war, right? It was literally they were engaged. So I think that's right to the point. People wanted to know that their leaders were willing to put their lives on the line, right? And they were going to go out and fight. Not so much right now, right?
No, and again, I'm not speaking for other countries. I know different places have different sorts of ocracies, as I call them. But, for America, it is kind of, the president is meant to do what's best. However, common sense might work both ways, bad or good, because a lot of times they're just using their own knowledge, which is good, depending on who you ask. The next one that I really liked off of here is experience is the teacher of all things. Now, this kind of cuts all corners of everything, whether it's from the Bible and it's a Christ quote or an Abraham quote, whether it's the Buddha, whether it's the Dalai Lama. Experience of the teacher of all things is really, I think, you might agree, something that most countries, even today, would agree on.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the experience is what differentiates what it was. As we just pointed out, Roman culture, Chinese culture, all that stuff, warrior was the go-to. So their experience was specifically war. Now today, it hasn't stopped. Obviously, you have, the Middle Eastern stuff. You have, South America. You still have war going on, but it was a differentiate between what they believed was not just destruction, but they were actually gaining life skills, so to speak.
Well, I mean, we can look at what's going on in Ukraine right now, right? Russia and Ukraine. And you've got Zelensky, who is the president of the country, and he's not technically fighting in the war, but we see picture after picture after picture with him
Right.
literally going down the streets, leading his following, his people, and
Right.
being the face so that people can say, oh, he's there with us, even though he's not technically.
Right. And in that case, he is the experience,
Yep.
which is the teacher
Right.
to the thing. So
Right.
Caesar is spot on, as many
Right.
of these rulers were. You don't know things until you do things.
Right.
Again, we're going to keep going back. Their idea of doing things was much different than what we do, but it worked, I guess. Now, the next one kind of goes along with this. He said, it is better to create than to learn. Creating is the essence of life. Now, this kind of goes against what he literally just said a second ago.
Right, that's weird.
However, this is Caesar in the role of leader, not role of warrior. Caesar did believe, at least from what I've watched and seen, that doing something good or doing something at all is better than having something be taught to you. Now, this is interesting to me a lot because I've talked about people like Plato and Aristotle from Greek philosophy. They were big on teaching, and a lot of people follow their footsteps when it comes to philosophy. So here we have somebody from the opposite end, because obviously Greek and Roman are different cultures, saying learning's cool, but if you're not the maker or the doer or the creator, you're kind of missing the point of living. Now, it's hard to see what he was thinking here, considering for my idea of creation is more what we're doing here of making something.
Right.
And again, I don't know if you can think of anything.
That's kind of I've actually never heard that quote before. And so hearing it now, you're right. It seems to conflict with what he said in one of the other quotes. And I don't know, learning and being taught it's paramount to what we do, right? And so if he's saying creating, is that different than, so when you learn somebody else's stuff. When you create your own. Is that kind of what he's saying? Create your own?
That's how I took it as. And again, just like you, I had not heard this until until I looked it up on Brainy quote. But yeah, it does kind of go against, but again, this is not a put down of people running the world. But again, it kind of also follows how leaders change their minds. Maybe. What I think of it is exactly what you just said. I think of it as, okay, learn what you learn, but that's from somebody else. Creating is strictly from you. The fact that he's saying both are important, I don't know, but it also makes me think of times in, like a presidency when they'll say something and then 2 weeks later, the bill comes out and it's very different.
Right.
And again, we're not doing the politics, but just generally speaking, if you can tell the difference, then obviously you're going to speak up and go,
well, I'm wondering, Rob, the creating maybe is that we all come to this world to leave something in this world. And maybe what he's saying, and I'm not sure because it seems a little counterintuitive to me, but maybe what he's saying is that in order to be a productive individual and person in the world while you're here, is you need to make your mark, and you make your mark by creating something. Maybe that's what he's saying. I don't know.
I will go with that because, to be honest, yeah. And again, like I was trying to find the backstory for a lot of this stuff, but again, because they're just general quotes, there's not a lot of historical reference.
Right, context.
At all.
Yeah.
Now, the next one I think we can agree on is a fairly good quote, even if it sounds a little odd. I love the name of honor more than I fear death. Now, this goes back to his warrior stance. This, I think, is a great affirmation to live by. It's better to do good and to be honorable than to worry about what's going to happen. Now, this is not to say go out and put yourself in a position that's going to
Right.
be bad. This
Right.
is to say, if you are able to speak up for something or to help someone. And again, this kind of goes to the superhero thing, right? You have characters like Spider-Man, you have characters like Captain America who weren't really put in the position by choice, but
Right.
since they have the ability, that became their moniker, is to do what they can to help.
Hmm.
Now, the fearing death is interesting part because again, if you are not of warrior stance, you don't want to die for any particular reason. However, if you are of warrior or war stance, your first goal is okay, my job here is to make sure that my people, my country, they don't collapse, they don't fall
Right.
victim. So if I have to put myself out there, that's what I'm
Right.
going to do. What do you think?
Right.
I mean, it's a very strong
Right. No, and
affirmation.
I think you're right. That's absolutely correct. I agree with that, with what you're saying.
All right, so next up, so this one's interesting. It's a little bit long. So he said, what we wish, we readily believe. And what we ourselves think, we imagine others think also. So this morning, when I did my history lesson on the lunch meat on bologna, bologna became a poverty food because people saw immigrants eating it. And
Okay.
they automatically put two and two together, right? Because they said, oh, well, those guys don't have a lot of money. Bologna must be a poor man's
And
food.
therefore, 2 + 2 = 5, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So what he's saying here, again, and I love it when you kind of kick somebody without knowing you've been kicked, but he's basically saying, what we want, we believe, but we also think everybody else agrees as well. And that is not what you want to do. And this is back to his leader stance. This is back to him as not a general. That's the word I'm looking for, a general. General, this is back to him leading a country. But I love the fact that, yes, many a times, and this is why when we're on our show, we go, we're telling you our point of view. If you don't like it, cool beans. That's
Right.
not, it doesn't matter. We're not saying, well, I believe it, so you have to. And that's what he's trying to get across. Just because you think something, yeah, somebody might agree with you, cool, but don't make the assumption that your neighbor, your friend, your family member, whatever, is going to be on board. And
Right.
that's what kind of makes this healthy debate because you
Right.
do disagree.
Right. Agreed.
All right.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. There you go. What else do we have here? Okay, so no one is so brave that he is not disturbed by something unexpected.
Mm.
If anybody's going to say you something like this, it's going to be a guy who goes to war regularly, and he will call you out. If you say that you are the bravest person in the world, that nothing worries you, you are a liar in his eyes.
Right.
Because even the strongest, even the fiercest, even the best weapons handler is going to be disturbed or worried about what they don't see coming. So this kind of goes against what he said, but it
I think
doesn't.
this is, yeah, and yeah, I think, yeah, and I actually think this is a great quote because I think it's really has everything to do with life, and it has to do with everyday people. We don't have control over what's coming, and so I love this quote. I don't think it's just for war. I think it's like everyday life.
No, exactly. And that's what we're bringing it back to is that
Right.
this is something that, like, he is somebody who will call you out on it. And if you go up to him and you say, nothing's going to bother me, I am perfectly fine, he's like, I don't want you on my team. That's,
Right.
that's not going to work. And it's like a business. You have somebody in your business that goes, oh, I'm perfect. I'm never going to make a mistake. This is all going to go well. You're out the door before you can even put your stuff down
Right.
on the desk.
Exactly.
So, and again, and it's better to admit to the defeat of not knowing than to go and go, oh, I'm good, we're fine, nothing, nothing's
Right.
problematic. And this actually goes to another one. He said, cowards die many times before their actual deaths. And again, it's true. This
Yeah.
is something where, and again, it kind of goes with the Ukraine thing too. The president there could have easily backed off and not shown his face and just kind of took the coward way out. And Caesar would have said, dude, what are you doing? That's not how you run your
Right.
people. So this is, and again, these quotes, and I laugh because they sound so insulting, and people are like, well, that's rude. But really, this is like business 101, people. This is what the guys like, Vanderchuck, all those guys, this is what they teach. This is like,
Right. It's
you're going to,
life 101. It's not just business, it's life
it's
101.
like, okay, there you go. It is life 101. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, a lot of these kind of copy themselves over and over again.
Right.
There's one, men freely believe that which they desire, which is good. This
Right.
is kind of the alternative of the don't, everybody believes what I believe. This is just strictly saying, they believe that which they desire, which is a fancy way of saying you make what you get. You
Yeah.
put forth.
Right. One of the quotes that I like from him is cowards die many times before their actual deaths. I like that one a lot. And I think it has to do with the way we show up in the world. And sometimes we're not going to stand up for what we believe in.
Right.
And when we don't stand up for what we believe in, it's like a slow little death inside of us, because a little bit at a time, we feel like we're being chipped away at. So I think that is, I love the word courage. And when you're not courageous, you're a coward.
Right. So the one I'm going to end us with is one of my favorites. I've lived long enough, both in years and in accomplishments. One thing people always worry about, and even on my calendar today, is what is one thing you regret not doing? So Caesar himself believed, obviously, he could have lived much longer, but he believed that he had lived long enough, not only in literal life, but in what he did for him and his people. And he's right, because to this day, and we'll show you what we actually found on Amazon in a minute, but to this day, not only did he have books written on him, Shakespeare's play, movies made out of him, he has become one of the most iconic generals and Roman historical figures of all time. So I'm passing it to you. What cool gear did we find?
Well, so to that point, there was a movie that was made that was starring Marlon Brando, and it was called Julius Caesar, right? So big star, Marlon Brando. You might want to take your phone out right now and scan this, or click the link that's in the comments, because this will take you over there. But what I found fascinating, Rob, is not only was the movie Julius Caesar done with the star Marlon Brando, they actually did another one, and that was the star Charleston Heston, which also is fascinating to me. So it's like, pick your star, right? Which one do you like? Which star do you like the most? Very, very cool. And then finally, if you don't want to watch a movie, you don't want to, because as we know, directors tend to put their own things into it. So it's not always exactly historical. So if you really want to get a much more historical, it's historical, but not Shakespeare. And this is in writing, and this is his whole dramatization of the life and times of Julius Caesar. Again, scan the code. It will give you an idea to go in there. There's lots of Julius Caesar stuff in Amazon. We just picked a few of our favorites that we thought might be interesting. Again, 2 different movies, 2 different times, 2 huge stars. I mean, which star would you say is the biggest, Rob? Marlon Brando or Charlton Heston?
I feel like I'd be insulting somebody if I said one or the other. So I don't.
Wasn't Charlton Heston like Moses or something?
Well, I mean, he thought he would know, but yeah, he
was. I don't mean was he really. I mean,
I know. I think he was in the 10 Commandments. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I find it interesting, and I wonder, because these are old movies, obviously old movies, and I wonder if this was like the role that everybody wanted, right? Everyone wanted to be Julius Caesar. So, and unfortunately, I don't know which one came first. Which was it, Marlon Brando's version?
Well, one looked like it was in black and white. One was in color. I think.
Yeah, this is the Marlon Brando one. Well, they're actually
okay. So that one is from 1953.
And then the other one.
Let me open that. Let me see that. 1970. So much later than that.
So Charlton Heston was much later. The earlier one was Marlon Brando. I kind of picture Charlton Heston as that kind of star. I don't really picture Marlon Brando in that. I think Marlon Brando is more of a gangster, more of the shoot 'em up robber kind of thing. But check it out. We'd love to hear which one you like better. I don't know which one you like better.
And I think we had some of the quote stuff, but if not, I know you can find some of the motivational posters as well, with his quotes on it too. So Yeah, I don't know.
Great
It's
topic. Great topic. I love this. So we went back to school today. Love it.
so
And
hopefully
next,
you had your
I got my fill of history. But next week we're doing shows about food.
yes, yummy. So we're going to talk a little about staying healthy or eating healthy on a short or a small schedule.
Right.
And for those who want some junk food, we got the history of the cookie too.
Yeah.
So
Bite-sized history, though.
the
Okay.
bite size. Honestly, it's funny because I looked all around. It was like a paragraph about the cookie. I'm like, there's more info on this than that. But
There's
you'll have
gotta
to stay
be
tuned
more.
and watch it. So
And we're going to want to know what your favorite cookie is. Okay. I know what mine is. Rob has a favorite, I'm sure, too. We want to know what your favorite is. So join us next week for the shows. Go out, give somebody an awesome day. We'll see you